Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 46. So my next guest is definitely here to teach us some amazing life skills around how to deal with and resolve chronic pain. Kat Elton. Now, I don't know who came up with the name first, but great minds think alike. You are a true health coach, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the role I'm pursuing now. I've been many things, but that's I think a really good description of what I do.
That is fantastic. Yeah, on your website it says True Health, and you that is a title within your book, and I just love that because this podcast is Learn True Health. So
I know.
Here we are with Kat to learn true health, especially around how to manage pain. Now, just give us a background. You can definitely give us your professional background because you definitely have one. But I'd love for you to share your story with our listeners of your personal experience with chronic pain.
Okay. Well, I was diagnosed with a chronic painful disease when I was actually 2.5 years old. And that was juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. It's a disease that it is chronic. It is incurable. It is something that when I was diagnosed, it was 1970. And back then, they didn't even know that infants felt pain. They didn't know much about pain. They didn't know much about the immune system. They didn't know much about my disease. And they didn't know much about the mind-body connection. As far as in the mainstream, it's getting a little more, definitely we have a lot more knowledge around all that now. And so growing up, my experience growing up with pain was a very lonely one, because back then, you just the idea was to just try to keep up with the other kids kind of thing. And so it was a very lonely journey when I was young. So how I dealt with it was by just putting my head down, taking that Nike slogan, no pain, no gain, and just going forward and trying to do it. And that wasn't really very effective, actually. So it ended up, the numbing aspect ended up, feeding that denial. And I realized I wasn't really helping myself. When I got into my 20s, I started developing different strategies around how to manage my disease and how to think about my disease. And especially as such a young person living with pain, you do not want to, that's not any kind of a fate anyone wants to admit to or have any part of. So you fight against, I did, I fought against that for many, many years, and I still do. So, again, kind of moving into a new phase with my 20s, a lot of the lingo around healing in my experience, it's been around fighting disease, fighting cancer, the war on cancer, the war on pain, and it's very it's a lot about fighting. And in fighting my disease, I realized I was fighting myself. So I'm looking at this disease, I'm trying to fight it and subdue it and conquer it the way that all the books tell you to do. And when you live with a chronic pain type condition, that can really entrench negative beliefs, because sometimes you don't have the ability to get rid of your pain, even if you read all the books and you do everything you have to do. So I finally got to that phase where saying, well, shoot, I've done everything I possibly can do. I've taken ownership of this. I've stopped numbing myself. I've stopped being in denial. I still have my disease. I've done everything that the books tell me, gone on all the diets and whatever. And I realized, you know what? It's more about an internal journey. And what is true health? Is it really the absence of disease, or is it how you live your life? Can you be healthy with chronic pain and chronic disease? And my belief is strong, yes, to that. It takes work for everybody to be healthy. Even if you're physically healthy, you may not be emotionally healthy. So we all have work. We all have continual work to continue to bring health our way, because we're all making choices every day. So again, my story, coming back to the pain aspect, I think that it creates a lot of challenge for me, and it continues to, because I still, I have pain every day, most of every second of every day. But it also brings a lot of wisdom and a lot of life, as you said, life skills that actually can translate into a better life, believe it or not, than someone who doesn't have challenge. So that's where I'm at. And you asked about the professional. The professional kind of parallels my personal, because I actually I got involved with the Arthritis Foundation when I was a teenager and volunteered for them. And when I was in college, I went to something called the Arthritis Self-Help class, which was an 8-week course. Actually, I think it's a 12-week course to help people to learn skills on how to handle arthritis. And that basically changed my life. And I decided I wanted to teach the course. So I went to a teacher training, and I met some occupational therapists there, and I thought they were really neat. So I thought, I think that's what I want to do. So I ended up doing that. And after about 15 years, it got too physically hard for me, with my arthritis. So I had to stop working, and it was really hard because I loved my job. But that's when I started writing. And writing is something that I realized I really enjoy and I'm good at. And it's another way to help people to learn, as you said, the skills to live well, whether you have pain or you don't have pain. So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm writing for a website called rheumatoidarthritis.net, and write my blog. And as you said, I do health coaching with people. So again, the personal and the professional have been kind of paralleling each other in my life.
Absolutely. Well, true health is embracing every aspect of your life, like you shared. You need to find that balance and address your emotional, your mental, your physical, and your spiritual health. It's a journey. We're never done. I hate that idea that I'm not healthy until I look like
Yeah,
a model on a magazine.
exactly. Exactly.
Or I'm not healthy until my life looks like that person's life. And it's no, it's you're on your health journey now.
Yeah.
And I love that you took the learnings, that you stopped and started listening and started learning.
Yeah.
Because I think one of our first reactions to pain is to get a drug. We will do almost anything to be out of pain, including resort to things we wouldn't normally resort to, like a prescription medication.
Yeah.
It's a huge issue right now. How do you help people who, they want to be out of pain, and maybe they've been overusing opioids, or they're now addicted to the opioid? How do you help them? What kind of tips, or are there any tricks to helping them?
Yeah. Well, okay. So pain is really a difficult situation. Okay. And chronic pain is a very difficult situation. And we've been taught to go immediately toward the pharmaceutical option. And sometimes that's the best thing to do, because as I said, I've lived in pain my whole life, but you're going to laugh when I tell you the next thing. And that is, it took me a really long time to realize I had actual chronic pain, because I didn't identify with chronic pain. I would be doing occupational therapy with people in pain, and I'd be feeling sorry for them, not thinking, boy, I'm in the same situation. But the reason why that is for me, I think this is a skill of resilience that I have, and that's something I teach people, is because my pain and chronic pain is changeable. Within this experience of pain, it's not always the constant thing. You always have it, but it changes. So what I encourage people to do is to, again, instead of what you said, the first reaction people have is to take a pill. And the reason why is we want to get out of the pain. And again, our society, I think, is built around forcing pain out and thinking of it as really bad, and pleasure. It's all about being comfortable, right? We can't be uncomfortable in any way at all. We have to be in our air-conditioned homes, have our television, whatever it is. And when you live in chronic pain, you realize that these things, you can do all these things, but you're still going to have your pain. So we have to tune into it instead of tuning it out. First of all, we have to understand what things help us to decrease our pain, and what things we're doing that increase our pain, and start creating a toolbox. So for me, the way I look at it and what I tell people, we have to eat every day. We have to, we brush our teeth every day. We drink every day. We have to put in liquid. If you live in pain, you have to do something to help your pain every day. It has to be on your agenda, because otherwise it's going to slowly and slip up on you, and pain level is going to increase. And then it's going to get to a point that you have to take a pill. And some people live in a state where they do have to take some sort of pain relieving medication. And again, everyone's situation is different. But even if you do that, it doesn't mean you don't have other options that you can do along with it. So I take arthritis medication, but it doesn't mean that I don't do anything else to help my arthritis. And so some things that I use specifically for pain are I move my body every day. I move my body every day, even in pain, and that helps my pain to not escalate.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend with arthritis in the knees, and she does interesting. It's a before you get out of bed yoga tape.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like sitting on the edge of the bed, so she gets up before her feet touch the floor, and it just has her do slow circular motions with her ankles, with her toes, with her knees, not circular with her knees, but up and down with her knees, and just flex and extend gently. And if she does this every morning before leaving the bedroom, she's in significantly less pain than if she just got up. And so she got it from she adapted it from, basically it was like chair yoga.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I could do this in the morning before I can get out of bed. And it really helps. But on the days that she's busy and not taking care of herself, not putting her pain management first, then down later in the day, she's really suffering. And so I think it's hard for us women. I can't speak for men, but I feel like it's hard for us to put ourselves first, and that is our challenge on this planet, is to find this balance where we are putting the habits in place to manage our health, so that even when we're traveling, even when emergencies come up, even when we're thrown out of our routine, that we still make sure that we practice those habits. If I were to not have the habit of taking my supplements and eating healthy, I wouldn't feel it for a few days, but maybe 3 weeks or a month from now, I would absolutely feel horrible, right?
Yeah, right.
And so even just that, or if you were to stop moving every day, even for a few days, your pain levels would increase.
Yeah.
And so it's not this in the moment, like you can take a bunch of Advil and less than 30 minutes later feel relief.
Right.
So it's like this carrot and the stick, where we have to figure out how to adjust our routine, so we make sure that when we're not in pain, that we put, or we're in significantly less pain, we put the system, the habits in place, so that we can keep the pain levels down. What tricks do you have to help people implement these tools in their life?
A couple things I can say. First one would be, this is my tip is for everybody, is to try to be your own best friend. So when you're not doing, when you have good intentions, but you're not necessarily doing what you need to do, check in with yourself as your best friend. And your best friend is going to tell you, what, it really does matter, and you really do matter, and you really need to be doing these things. And so be your own best friend. Second thing is to remember that small things make big differences. So people think like, okay, we all have this, we've all fallen into these traps, and especially January 1st of any year. Like, I'm going to run a marathon in 3 months, right? We put you these high goals, and then 2 weeks later, you're just frustrated because it just doesn't work. And so when you're in pain, your energy, everything is just a little bit less. It may be on half mast, maybe three-quarters, but you don't have the full. You're not going to be gung-ho and excited as you would if you weren't in pain all the time, as excited. So be easy on yourself and do something small. For example, like when I said move my body every day, I said that for a reason, because some days I can walk up. I live in Durango, Colorado, a beautiful mountain town, so I can walk up the hill behind my house and walk down. And some days I'll be lucky to walk around the block. So those are the days I'm doing my chair yoga. But again, I'm moving my body every day. I have this wide range of what that means, depending on what my body is needing or wanting or able to do on a particular day. So small steps do make a big difference. And by doing that, as you said, I'm always helping myself to not slide back further than I have to. So those would be two things. And then a third thing I can mention is to be curious and be open and to trust yourself. Trust yourself, because everyone's going to have an opinion, but you're the expert about what you need and about your body and about your life. So you ask anyone, they're going to tell you what they think. It's going to come from their experience, not your own. So again, be open, be curious, always learn. I'm always learning. I'm 45 years into this, and I'm still on the internet on a regular basis, learning about my disease and things that I can do to help myself, about new advances in pain management. And we do have a lot of options that don't involve taking a pill, medical options. And so the challenge that we have as consumers is insurance doesn't pay for some of these options, many of the ones that are more considered integrative, but they're still out there, and we can prioritize what it is that we need and try to figure out a way to fund those things. So that is something too. And then the final thing I'd say around that is when you're choosing, get a support system around you. And that means find perhaps a massage therapist that you trust and that you would like, and people work with you. People will work with you financially if you need that. And just persevere. Just persevere. That I always think of attributed to Winston Churchill, although I found out a lot of these quotes are not necessarily really the people who said them,
Right.
But Winston Churchill said something like this, the never, never, never give up quote. And I think about that because we have to keep persevering. You have to, because it's your life. This is your life. And if you don't do it, no one else will. So I think that,
oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
No, I just think that's it. It's constantly understanding that there's a lot at stake. And when it comes to dealing with chronic pain and the decisions around that. So just keep persevering, because there's always, just for me, just when I think I've run out of options, something comes around the door that they're like, "Ooh, that's an interesting one. Let me think about pursuing that." So
I love that you said that. I have a friend I'm thinking about who has been in chronic pain for so many years. She's given up on life.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have that mindset, it seems like we can't even see when the opportunities arise.
Yeah.
Because when we have decided like it's hopeless, or and it's so easy to fall into that when we are in pain.
It is.
So I don't fault her. But it is that mindset. Oh, if 3 or 4 things fell through, it's really easy to give up or feel like life's hopeless.
Yeah.
She went through a surgery to relieve the pain. She still has the chronic pain. And so she thinks this is it. This is just her life. And it's that attitude that has closed her mind off to learning new things, to exploring new avenues. And we can try 3 or 5 or 10 things and think that's it, we've tried everything, but we haven't.
No.
There's so much out there, especially in the holistic realm, that works. I mean,
Yeah.
I am blown away. I've got naturopathic doctors and friends in the holistic health field that all the time share new technologies with me. And there's this biomat from Germany called the Beamer machine, for example, and it is amazing, and it uses I don't even know, some kind of energy field, but I have witnessed it work. So things like that, of course, aren't covered by insurance.
Yeah.
And my husband had fallen and injured his hand a few years ago, and for a whole year, I mean, I kept saying let's go to physical therapy, but for a whole year his hand was in pain. Like just it was like he had the joint, it was out of socket and there was scar tissue, and so for a whole year his hand hurt, and he just kind of lived with it because he was very manly about it, right? Like, just suck it up. My hand hurts, suck it up. And then a friend of ours, actually Dr. Megan Saunders, who's a naturopathic physician, said, hey, well, why don't I do homeopathic injections? And I looked at her like she had 3 eyes. I'm like, I know homeopathy works because I've had it work for me. But, and so I totally was skeptical, didn't believe it would work. And she's like, oh no, it works. It works. I'm like, okay, well, why don't you try it? Like, let's just try it. And she did the homeopathic injections, and then he got, he only had 50% range of motion in his hand. She did the injections, and immediately he got full range of motion, and the pain was down significantly. He went for like 2 more treatments, and that was it. He's never had pain in that hand again.
I love that story.
And so I was a big believer. And then when I was pregnant, I hurt my knee, like I couldn't walk, and she did the injections, and boom, next day, I was worried because the next day we had to fly down to San Diego, and I wanted to be able to walk through the airports. And she did the injections, and I was able to walk. I mean, it was amazing. And homeopathy, there's literally nothing. It's water and energy. It's an energy signature. It's not even any molecules.
No.
And so you have to keep an open mind, because in the unknown is where you're going to find more answers. But I also love that you talked about how we need to be our own best friend, because without that, we tend to become abusive towards ourselves. And not put ourselves first. We see our friend doing that, and we just jump to their aid and go, hey, wake up. What are you doing? Take care of yourself. And so we really need to treat ourselves as lovingly as we would treat our friends.
Yeah, I agree. And just to speak to some of the things that you just mentioned around my second book it's called the book that's called True Health, The Inside Job. The first chapter is called Belief. The title is Belief, because belief is the most important thing. You have to decide that you're worth it. You have to decide that you can, and you have to decide that you'll be okay no matter what happens. And you will. All those questions, you can decide those things.
That's funny. Those are the exact same things I teach young entrepreneurs.
Really? Yeah.
Because it's like mindset.
Yeah.
I've had people come to me going, I don't think I can succeed. I'm like, well, then you really can't.
Exactly.
I mean, that mindset will completely shut off your ability to see opportunities and seize them.
Yeah.
And so it's the mindset lesson can be taught for any aspect of life.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's the wonderful thing about this whole concept of being healthy with chronic illness. I really believe that my disease has taught me how to be a much stronger, better person. I mean, I'm physically weaker. Physically, my life is more limited. The parameters of my life are more limited because I require more rest. I have more limitations, but I have these life skills directly related to taking on disease in this way, instead of just mindlessly and passively going into the process, deciding that, no, I really think I can direct this a little bit better than maybe these strangers that know me for 5 minutes. So again, I I feel strongly that what you're saying, there's this transfer of skills that can happen. You learn how to change your belief system and create hope in your life around your challenge, whatever it is. And then that transfers, you become more courageous in other aspects as well. So your friend that is in this hopeless situation right now, I think it would be important for you to just, sometimes I don't know how long she's been this way, but sometimes I felt it's almost healthy to get into that place. It sounds really strange, but to go that far down the rabbit hole and say, this is not okay, I'm hopeless. Because then you say, wait a second. You have the opportunity to say, listen, I bottomed out, this is it. But do I really want this to be it? No, I don't. So, okay, let's decide to fight for my life. That's the only fight that I want to be in, is fighting for my life. And I do believe that that's what I'm doing every day. And because, I mean, I've even had a Buddhist monk. I went to this class on meditation, and I've done many of them, but this one in particular, he was from Tibet, and I asked him the question around chronic pain. How do you meditate when your pain is getting in the way? And he didn't have an answer. He said, that's a really hard situation. And so, do you know Caroline Mace? She's a spiritual author, teacher.
Her name sounds so familiar.
Yeah. Anyway, she says, she talks about how people who, in order to live your life well, you obviously have to take responsibility for it. And sometimes you find yourself in a predicament. She calls it a predicament. What I am in is a predicament, because there's
because it doesn't create a victim mentality.
No, I'm in a predicament. It is what it is. I have pain, and at this point in my life, unless I can have a bionic body, I'll always have pain because of the damage that's been done to my joints. Even if I go into remission, which I'm still hoping will happen, I'll have less pain, but I'll still have pain. So that's a predicament, right? Because I'm never going to get out of it. But going back to the belief, so what am I going to do with this predicament? My belief is that I'm going to, in my book, I talk about going through this process, and you literally dump your belief system out on its head, and then you just add things back one at a time. I question every single belief I have about my life when I'm, at that point when I decided this wasn't working. I had to question every single belief. And a lot of things I had been taught were wrong. And one thing, going back to the alternative versus conventional medicine, I'm noticing, because I've had illness for many decades now, and the past 10 years and more now, there seems to be this cultural divide between people who think that alternative care is kind of flaky, and then people who are in alternative care thinking modern medicine is like it's all toxic drugs and stay away because it'll kill you. And then there's like people that enter in my position, and I've been for years without medication, but I have a particular disease that it gets to a point where I feel like I'm a masochist. If I have these treatments available to me, and if I turn my back on them, I could very well end up in a wheelchair, even if I'm, trying every alternative practitioner, because I've been to many of them as well. So the way I look at it is, it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle, and bring it all in. Bring all the good aspects of everything. And I use conventional medicine, but I use it judiciously. I don't go to my doctor and take every single medication they recommend. I probably take 1 out of every 5. And when I go to an alternative practitioner, I take their advice as well, and I bring it all into the fold because I need all of it. I don't want to take things away that could potentially be helpful, because I need all the help I can get, basically, right? So I've cautioned people who against that divide, that rigid thinking, because that's not going to be healthy. And we have to understand that there's help out there from a lot of different sources. But again, I'm going to understand what's best for me. I know how my body responds to some of these arthritis medications that are the ones you see advertised on TV all the time. I've had experience with a lot of them, and I know what my body does, and I know how I have to help my body when I'm taking these medications. Things shift. Even though you live with a chronic condition, you're always having to adapt to the changes. And that is a skill, again, that comes with time, that you have to learn over time. Yeah.
I love that. Megan Saunders, Dr. Megan Saunders, I think I have to have her on the show to share this because she shared with me that she has this laundry list that I guess naturopaths really pay attention to and MDs don't, and it just boggles my mind that there's like a computer program or some kind of list where she can look up a drug and tell you what nutrients it depletes.
Yeah.
So there are certain drugs. It's very common that drugs will deplete calcium, magnesium, zinc, vitamin C, the B vitamins will somehow make it so your body can't utilize them. For example, it's common that cholesterol medication inhibits the body from producing CoQ10. CoQ10 is an enzyme that's necessary in energy production, and without it, your muscles grow weak, and that's why people on the older cholesterol medications end up like just falling over.
Yeah.
They're too weak, and that's also a concern for their heart health. So it's like this irony that they think they're reducing their cholesterol with medication for heart health, but they end up causing heart problems because the medication inhibits the body from producing CoQ10. So so it's very important that when people are choosing to be on medications that they do the research and find out, which MDs don't know. They just don't know. Because they often rely on the drug rep to tell them things. And of course, the drug rep isn't going to say, by the way, tell your patients to take more vitamin C because this will make them deplete.
Right.
And so that's why I love seeing an ND, naturopathic doctors, which are, if you see a licensed one, which they're only licensed in about 18 or so states, unfortunately, they're trained in drugs, they're trained in natural medicine, and they help to, bring balance to both, hopefully.
Right.
But that's very important to consider, especially when you're in a chronic pain situation in which you want to be on certain medications. You also want to know, like you said, how your body reacts to it. There's certain medications where you have to do extra support to the liver.
Right. Yeah. No, there's actually a book, and I wish I had the name of it. I have it referenced in my first book, and it does.
You just have to buy your first book.
There you go. And it goes into specifically, very specific, and I actually wrote about arthritis medications and that very topic, certain ones that what they deplete. For example, methotrexate, which is a very common drug for rheumatoid arthritis, depletes folic acid. So you have to take folic acid with your methotrexate. And aspirin. And vitamin K, and depletes vitamin K. So I took aspirin when I was a little kid, tons of aspirin, and I would people thought I was an abused kid sometimes at the pool because I had bruises all over my body. But I didn't know, my parents didn't know at that time why. And so yes, that's exactly right. And when you have a chronic pain or a chronic disease situation, you are with what I have is inflammation, which, that's basically the hallmark of my disease is inflammation, and that causes pain. What inflammation also causes is a lot of pro-oxidants. So we hear about antioxidants and how you have to eat lots of fruits and vegetables. When you have a chronic disease or a chronic pain, you need that even more for that support, because our bodies are working so much harder because of the situation we found ourselves in. And we're creating more pro-oxidation in our body, which means we have to be more careful with, again, building up our nutrients. So for me, I am always aware of that. And with my diet, I am always trying to incorporate what you call power foods. Power foods are foods that are high in nutritional value, bang for the buck sort of thing. So I incorporate those, and I'm careful to eat non-GMO and organic for those reasons too, because they're going to have more nutritional value, and my body needs that. And anyone who has chronic disease and chronic pain needs extra support nutritionally, and they need, extra support with the rest. And so, I tell people, when you have a chronic disease, and it's true, it's a part-time job at best. It can be a full-time job at times, but it's a part-time job. And it's, have you heard of the guy, the last lecture? His name's Randy Pausch.
No.
Oh, well, okay. He was so cool. He passed away. But he was a professor at Carnegie Mellon University. And I think he was an engineering professor. And at that university, they have this program, and it's called The Last Lecture. They invite professors to come and give a lecture on any topic, but just as if it was your last lecture you're ever going to give in your life.
Wow. And
he actually had been he got this opportunity, and he said, yeah, I'll do it. And then found out his cancer was terminal, and he actually probably was going to be his last lecture. And so he basically gave, a lecture of all lectures that turned into a book. And one of the things he said is, it's you have to play the cards you're dealt. You have to play them as well as you can. We're all dealt with cards, and I think we spend a lot of time, berating ourselves, like you said, for our plight, maybe blaming ourselves, or if we're not blaming ourselves, we're blaming the world, we're projecting it out to elsewhere. And really what we need to do is accept the situation as it is. So I know that's hard, and I have a hard time accepting pain, and I actually don't accept my pain. I actually don't think my pain is acceptable. Why would I accept a life of pain? That doesn't make any sense to me, right? So this is how I do it. I accept the moment that I'm in. Because I have to. I'm accepting the fact that I'm in pain right now, but I'm always working towards improving my future. Okay, so and that may not mean that I'm going to have less pain in my future, but it may mean that I handle it better, or it may mean that I find ways to bring more joy into my life. So I think that's very important for all of us, is to try to stop the tendency of blaming yourself, or blaming your situation, or blaming someone, and start moving into healing. Because we're always choosing how we live every moment of every day of our life, and we're also choosing what to believe. We're also choosing what to think. So it's a very active process. There are things that we've been given that are, again, the whole serenity prayer. Accepting the things that we cannot change. There are things that you can't change. That's my predicament of my pain and my disease. But my life is an active process. And my health, I think, is an active process. I think everyone's is. And so we can make these choices on behalf of ourselves. And then we can become better people, better at life, better at, I think it's a skill. And I think we're here to learn. So why not take this opportunity and do these things?
I love that you said, in the moment, I'm accepting this moment.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy when we're in chronic pain to make this, because I'm feeling this way now, this is a prediction of my future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which we can say, when we're in poverty, because I'm this way now, this is what my future is going to look like. Or when we're depressed, depression is another form of chronic pain.
It is.
Because I'm suffering now, this is what my life's going to look like. And I think that that's why people commit suicide, is they are predicting in their mind, this is what my future looks like.
Exactly.
Because of my past, I'm collecting information because of my past experience and my current situation. It means this is my future. And you and I both know that's not true.
Yeah.
There's so many moments in my life where I was in so much emotional pain that I didn't want to live anymore. Like when both my parents died, and yet I knew logically, and it's funny because I don't know if you've had this experience, or maybe this is part of your coaching. You've got like this emotional. It's sort of like that that movie where oh gosh, I'm having a brain fart, but it's like all the little cartoon characters are different emotions. And
I don't know. Yeah,
oh,
but
I
sounds
can't.
funny. I should watch it.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's a Disney movie. I cannot believe I'm forgetting it in this very moment what it's called, but it's a recent Disney movie, and it's basically this little girl who has all the emotions are different characters, and so it's perfectly describes, I
Awesome.
think, how we are, because I often catch myself. This is a technique I learned in my teenage years, is to become the observer,
Mm-hmm.
and because I'm so stuck in the moment, in my suffering and the woe is me,
Mm-hmm.
which is really, there's this payoff. Like, it feels really good
Yeah.
to feel a victim of something. There's some kind of tickle of pleasure within the pain to really feel like a victim, and want people to acknowledge that I am suffering.
Right. Right.
And then but I step out and become the observer, observing. There's this logic part of my brain going, hey, this isn't a reflection of the future. The future hasn't happened yet. There's so many things that could change in your life. Just around the corner, there can be new experiences and new sensations. And so we can get through this. And that's the logic part talking. And then the
Mm-hmm.
pain part talking is, no, this is hopeless. I'm suffering. This
Yeah.
sucks. Or because of
Yeah.
the situation, it means I'm never going to have this. I'm never going to have that. I'm never going to have this. Oh my God, I'm never going to have this. And it just snowballs. So, becoming the observer and trying to listen to the logic part going, hey, there's something around the corner. There's light around the corner. We need to grasp that.
Mm-hmm.
So how
Yeah.
do you help people who are in that situation where they have, and like you said, it's good for people to get to that sort of rock bottom place, because that's where they can then begin to fight for their life. What what kind of advice or tools do you have to help them start to stop deciding that their future is already written based on their
Mm-hmm.
past,
Mm-hmm.
and start to create the future they want, even though they have chronic pain?
I think that the first thing, if you can possibly do this, because you can go pretty far down, and it's hard to find the energy to do anything. But I think the first thing is to find pockets of joy wherever you can find them, however you can, whatever that is for you. For me, being outdoors. I love just being outdoors, whatever it is, in a park or in the mountains, whatever I can do. But if you can find these little pockets of joy, you can recognize that again, and you can understand that there's the feeling I can have that. That's possible. And then you can try to find more of them. Just hold on to that feeling and remember it. And then the second thing I would say is, again, small steps. Find a small step, but kind of like your first idea, take it down a couple notches. Because I think we all start out, if we decide to do something, especially on behalf of a positive change in our life, we get a little too enthusiastic, and we maybe go 3 steps ahead and say, okay, I'm going to do this by next week. But I would say, go down, go up, get your first thought in your head about what it is that you want to do, and then move back a couple notches from that and get to that point. And then again, find a pocket of joy. Maybe that big pocket grows a little bit more, and then you can go to the next step. But I think those are 2 first steps. And then the third thing is, find a support. It doesn't have to be, support system. You only need one person or one support that you can find that will be there with you through the process without judgment, just validating you, just sitting with you, and knowing that there's someone there. There's someone there to hold your hand, and who isn't going to be pushing you, who isn't going to be telling you what to do. And I know that part can be a little bit harder to find, but that is something I think that is an important piece for everybody who lives with, great challenges like pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as far as the pain aspect, what you were saying around the emotional pain, the second book I wrote, The True Healthy Inside Job, Each chapter is devoted to a different aspect of internal qualities that you can enhance in yourself or work with to help yourself to be healthy. And I have chapters like resilience and effort and honesty and love and spirit. I also have pain. Pain is a chapter. And it seems funny. And it was funny to me to think, well, why am I going to write a chapter on pain when everything else is about purpose and belief and these great things? And the reason why is because pain is something we all have to deal with. You come into life and pain is an inescapable fact of life, okay? So in order to be healthy, I think we all have to learn how to live with pain, and we have to learn how to be resilient and adaptable within our pain, because again, like you said, emotional pain is a very, very common thing too. There's 100 million people in this country that live with chronic pain, and that's only physical. If you add in the emotional pain, people that live with chronic emotional pain, it would be like 500 million. I don't know, it would be a lot. That's something that we don't talk about as much, the mental health aspect of living. And it's so intimately intertwined with our physical health. So I think that, again, acknowledging that there's emotional pain, acknowledging that there's physical pain, and acknowledging that life is challenging for everybody. We all have our challenges, but that's just the reality that we have to live within. And so living within that reality the best that we can, and that again is part of it is going to be working with your pain and finding strategies to maneuver through really hard times. So again, that is something that is important piece for everybody living on this planet right now, especially people who live with pain.
It's true. And I think it's also good to learn these tools now.
Yeah.
So that we have them if we ever were to experience chronic pain. Now you're talking about how get at least one support system, someone who is your sounding board, can help you get your mindset back in order and without judgment. I think we feel very vulnerable when we're in pain, and we absolutely don't want to be judged. We're afraid that people will, especially I think with men, other men will challenge them, or maybe a woman will sort of challenge their masculinity, you're weak if if you talk about your pain, and that's really sad, because there's absolutely for physical pain there's an emotional component. And if for emotional pain it feels so real, it might as well be physical. So they're interchangeable. I really, really want to stress that having a support system outside yourself to help, keep you out of your head is important. That movie, by the way, is called Inside Out.
Okay.
Everyone's probably yelling at me. But yeah, it's called Inside Out. And actually, you said find pockets of joy, and joy is one of the protagonists in the movie. But that's right. Find these little tiny moments. If you can set these tiny goal baby steps. Do you remember that movie Bob back in the 80s? It was Bill Murray plays a character named Bob, and baby steps. Yes, it's like we should everyone needs to go watch that movie this weekend, and just do that baby steps. But find those little moments of joy. I love that. Now, if someone doesn't have someone in their life who's a support, who they're maybe don't want to reach out to someone, I'm on your website. You are available for coaching. You do packages. And so I would encourage listeners who don't have a support system in place to reach out to you. Now, just tell me a bit about your website. So it's katelton.com. That's KATELTON.com. What are the services you offer on your website, and what are all the you have your blog, you have your books. Tell us about your website.
Well, the website I created after I wrote my books because I wanted to, show people who I was. So again, my website is for anyone who has rheumatoid arthritis, pain, chronic disease. I think you'll find benefit there. My whole idea is to help people to create better understanding and give people options, because I think that we all need options. And so my blog is something that I write about how to manage pain and how to manage disease. So I think just going through my blog, people can look in and find some ideas. And then I also have my books, just talk about myself and what my, the origin of my books and what they're about. And then the other thing that I offer is speaking, going out and giving speeches to groups if they want to hear about the things that we're talking about today, and coaching. So online coaching. So I have, like you said, packages, and I did do occupational therapy before, so I incorporate a lot of these practical life skills for people, and things that I do go into with people are packages on how to manage pain, skills for managing pain, skills for learning about rheumatoid arthritis, resilience. That's another thing we haven't really talked about much yet today, but that's a big thing for me. I think that resilience is a life skill that will help you to to manage chronic disease and chronic pain. So, so that's pretty much it. It's a vehicle for helping people, I think, to create more understanding around these complex issues.
Excellent. Now tell us about your books. So
Okay.
True Health is your first book, True Health, The Inside Job?
Actually, my first book is called A Resilient Life, Learning to Thrive, Not Just Survive with Rheumatoid Arthritis. And that book came about after my arthritis I went into a phase where I basically was non-functional for the first time in my life. I couldn't do anything. I was so much pain, and my disease just went into went to the stratosphere. So I did a lot of research on how to help myself, and went through a phase where I was trying everything. I was joking to myself at the time that I would stand on my head for an hour if it would help. I'd do anything. So I went to every alternative care kind of practitioner, and anything I could find about, I do. And I learned a lot about myself and about things that helped and what didn't help. So the first book, the idea is, if you have rheumatoid arthritis and you go to a doctor, you get about 10 minutes with your doctor, and then you have to go live your life for the next 6 months and figure it all out, like how you're going to sleep and how you're going to deal with these things. And so that's what it was more practical about. I have chapters on sleep and chapters on pain and describing what chronic pain is, and always ending with what to do. And then I have worksheets to go along with it, so people can follow along and have their own little health notebook at the end. They can download the worksheets actually off my website. I forgot to add that. And so it talks about self-care and connection and things that, again, practical skills, things that nutrition, I talk about nutrition and exercise and body mechanics. So all these things that'll help someone on a physical and emotional level to be more resilient with with rheumatoid arthritis. So then after I wrote that book, people who read it who didn't have rheumatoid arthritis said, hey, this is a good book for me too. There's a chapter on stress management. And when you were saying earlier, I wanted to say this actually, about how it's important to learn these skills now before you have chronic pain. I feel that that's especially true with stress management, because our life, especially our modern life, is very stressful. And a lot of the diseases of modern life are stress-related diseases. And I think in particular, when you have a chronic illness, stress, you just have more stress. There's a lot more anxiety related to it, a lot more unknown. So in learning to manage your stress before you get into a crisis situation is really important. So again, I just want to insert that into the conversation, but I talk about that in that book. And again, because people who didn't have arthritis got benefit from it, they said, hey, just take rheumatoid arthritis off the title and resell it as something else, Resilient Life. And I thought, yeah, but I think there's another book there. And so that's when I went back to the second book. And the second book is, again, more of it's 13 chapters, and it has more of the internal skills. I talk about resilience. I talk about pain. I talk about wisdom, how to gain wisdom. And Maverick is a chapter in that book because I learned through my reading that people who do best, people who have miraculous recoveries, remarkable recoveries from incurable illnesses, are not the people who are the good patients. They're the ones who are the mavericks who question everything. They're the ones who go out and say, you know what, that's a good idea, doctor, but you know that's not going to work for me. I'm going to do this instead.
Yes.
And so that, again, these are all skills we have to build over time. You know, the ability to find your voice and be strong enough to stand up to a doctor was really hard for me, but it's something that I had to do. And so, again, all of these things are important skills in the whole picture of health. And the books are, I think, for me, kind of mirroring my own journey, because when I wrote the first book, I was really, like I said before, I was dialing in all the physical aspects and trying to be perfect and trying to do everything I could to heal myself. But I was working from the model of this physical realm of more the conventional view that, you know, you just do everything perfectly and you're going to have the result that you want, right? And that's not necessarily true. That's not one of the humbling aspects of life. You can do everything you think that you have to do, and the result may be very different than what you think. And the result for me was that, yeah, I got healthier, but I didn't get rid of my disease. And I didn't get rid of my pain. So what I was left with the original predicament. And then I had to deal with my emotions around that and realize that, you know what, there's a different way here. And that different way is to, learn everything you can, dial in those aspects of the practical aspects of your life, because that's really important. Those are the basics. But then go further, go deeper. And then go into like graduate school. That's what I'm like. The second book is more the graduate school, which is looking at what your belief systems are and looking at how you put forth effort. I have a chapter on effort, and there's a difference between hamster on the wheel effort and true effort. You know, so we do a lot of hamster on the wheel effort. We're going around, we're like, I'm so busy, you know, especially in America, we like to be busy and productive and do everything. And then at the end of the day, we're exhausted. And what did we actually accomplish? Like, you know, and versus true effort, which is more discerning and more thoughtful and more contemplative, like what's really going to help me? Is it really going to help me to spend 5 hours in a doctor's office right now to look at this itchy leg that I have? Or is it more my effort it would be best for me to maybe go to a homeopathic doctor for this situation? You know, so again, that's the discerning effort. You can spin your wheels a lot when you have a chronic illness, trying to search for help. Yeah. So again, and along with that, another thing I can tell people is fear is really tough. You know, trying to minimize your fear and your anxiety, and that's where stress management can come in helpful. You know, learning mindfulness and learning, you know, visualization or meditation will help you to be calmer in these fearful situations that you find yourself in, to make better decisions around them. Because when you're acting from fear, we all know this, but it's hard to sometimes put into practice. But when you get afraid, but when you're acting from fear, you're not going to be making good decisions. So, yeah, I think that it's important to step away from that. Acknowledge it, but then step away from it as soon as you can.
Yeah, I love that acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Because that's like switching from that, letting the emotions run you to like switching back to the logic center of your brain and going, okay, I acknowledge it. Because when we push it away or when we resist is when it grows bigger. Like resisting pain. I know that John E. Sarno, who wrote the book Healing Back Pain, I've been trying to get him on his show. I've been trying to get him on the show, but his publisher said he's retired from doing interviews.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like, he's like, I don't know, 90 something, and I think I'll just keep bugging the publisher, but he's amazing.
That's great. No, I read that book. It is an awesome book.
Yeah, and the if you haven't read it, listeners, please read it. John E. Sarno was looking at the statistics of the people with chronic pain who went and got surgeries. I think it was specifically like lower back pain.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw that the surgeries didn't fix it. 12 years later, people still had chronic pain. And so he went, well, we're cutting people open and fusing their spine and it's not working. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And he started down this journey where he saw that there was such a strong emotional component to pain that I actually ended up learning a technique because I studied NLP and I became a trainer, master practitioner and trainer of neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnosis, and coaching. And so one of the techniques I learned was to help people get to the root of the emotion that's happening within their pain. And oftentimes, because they didn't know unconsciously, they didn't even, it was totally out of their awareness, but they were resisting, they're pushing away the emotions, especially men.
Yeah.
And when I had them, I just kept asking very simple questions to get them to become aware, to bring it to the surface and just become aware of the emotion. And once they stopped resisting and they became aware, their pain, the experience of their chronic pain significantly diminished.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to see that there was a correlation between what was going on emotionally and what was going on physically. And so I love that you address that.
Yeah.
Accept it, but don't let it run you.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really important. And another thing is to not take your emotions too seriously. And that's a really, really hard one. It's a very hard one for all of us. But I think that it's important to remember, even if you can't necessarily do it, but think it, because it's a reminder that our emotions are not always to be trusted. Our emotions are reactive, and our emotions are fleeting, and our emotions are not constant either, and we can all teach this to ourselves really, really quickly, right? All you have to do is like have a go on a walk with your dog, and you're having a wonderful time, and then you trip and fall over the curb, and you skin your knee, you're like, and then all of a sudden you're in a bad mood. Right? The condition is the same thing, except you fell, but our emotions just shift all the time, back and forth. Then our best friend calls us after we skinned our knee, and we're happy again, right? So we have to just all remember this. It's hard. It's something we have to constantly remind ourselves, because our emotions seem so real, and they are real, but they're fleeting, and they change with our circumstance. So again, acknowledging the emotion, and especially around the pain. That's why I talk about going into the pain instead of resisting it or numbing yourself. You have to go into it, because that's the only way you're going to learn how your pain, what your relationship to your pain is. I feel like my pain is my, and it's my most intimate relationship, my most long-standing relationship. I feel like I'm an old married couple with my pain at this point. But that's because I have a relationship to it. I have an understanding about the things that do increase my pain, and the emotions that increase my pain, the emotions associated with my pain. And I'm learned how to manage those emotions. And again, if you don't learn those skills, you talk about suicide. Suicide is a really big issue. And in fact, when I was writing the second book, I had an ex-boyfriend, and he took his own life. And that's when I decided to include that chapter about pain, because he was someone that wasn't able to do what you said, understand that the future isn't the past or the present. And so I feel like it's a huge risk when you have chronic pain. Depression and pain are intimately connected. And it's a huge, in my life, I've definitely, innately, I'm a very positive and optimistic person. That's just innately who I am. But I've definitely been through periods of time where I've been severely depressed. And I always, and when people say, hey, you're depressed, I always say, yeah, but it's situational. I always keep telling them that. I'm not a depressed person. I'm not. Because I'm not going to take that on. I'm not going to take it on. But there are times in my life where I am. And I have to, and that's, again, I think this is a skill that I have that is a good one. The ability to understand that this is my situation now.
But it's not your identity.
It's not my identity, although my arthritis partly is. So this is interesting when you bring up the identity thing. People say, I've heard, you are not your arthritis, you're not your pain, you're not your pain. People say this, but I don't think that's true, actually. I think I am my arthritis and I am my pain. And I'll tell you why, because I've lived with it for so long. It has shaped every aspect of who I am. And saying that I am my pain or I am my arthritis, that's not a negative thing to me. It's just a reality that I'm acknowledging. My arthritis, it does prescribe my life. My pain does impact my life in a negative way every day. It prevents me from doing things that I want to do. It just does. But, and it's affected my thoughts, it's affected my belief systems. But again, it's a two-way street. It's affecting me, but I'm also affecting it, right? We're working together. And I'm saying like it's two separate things, which is kind of funny because it's, this is two aspects of myself, right? But that's what
to hold a paradox in your mind,
right.
is actually evolved thinking. It takes higher level function of our
right.
of our mind to be able to hold a paradox, and we need to evolve to the point where we can exactly we can own our disease and yet make sure that we don't succumb to the victim mentality. That it is our identity. Because once we have decided it's our identity, it no longer becomes something we can change.
Right.
And yet, if we can own it, like this is my current situation and this is what I'm living with now, and I can change it, then it doesn't have power over you. I think like you said, dump out all your beliefs and kind of question each one. Question every belief that has this have power over you to the point where you can't affect it.
That's a good one. That's really, really true. And then you can reframe your ideas about your situation. And that right there is the heart of resiliency. That right there makes you a resilient person. The ability to reframe, the ability to go into a challenge. There are different definitions of resiliency, but my favorite one is the one that says that you bounce back from challenge better than you were before. Not only do you bounce back, but you bounce back better because you've actually paid attention while you were in that challenge. That's the key, is to pay attention to what's actually going on instead of succumbing to your fear or to other people's or your own view. You don't judge it immediately. That's the other thing I think, as far as a really good skill to enhance when you live with a chronic challenge, is to let go of judgment. Try to start to let go of judgment, because things are never the way they appear. Very rarely are they the way they appear. And especially when you're in a situation, if you judge it immediately, it's going to limit your options. Instead of continue to kind of reframe and going into your challenge, again, you may be living with a chronic disease, but then you go into a valley within your chronic disease where you're really struggling more. Then that's when your resiliency skills will kick in, and you can say, you know what, I've been here before. I've done this before. I've gotten through it before, and I'll do it again. And you will. And then I'll come back stronger because I'll have more skills. So
it's like a commodity. Being able to learn from the situations you're in.
Right.
I mean, that is a commodity no one can take from you.
Sure.
You develop those skills.
That's a really good way to put it. And going back to the desire for your friend, for example, what I know to be true is that my body is my most precious resource. This is what I have to interact with the world. This is what I have to bring to the world, is my body and who I am. And so it's my job, my responsibility to do the best I can on behalf of, I'm not going to plunder my resources. I'm going to keep them safe. So when I go out to a doctor, I'm not going to let my doctor plunder my resources. Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep my body safe if and so, when you cherish that resource of what your body is, when you understand what that is, I think that gives you a lot more incentive to do the right, to continue the fight. I hate to even word the fight, but continue the journey mm-hmm. in a strong way, even if you're not feeling strong. And so I want to just reiterate this to everybody listening, because this is the other thing I'm noticing with people who are first getting diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, for example. And usually you're diagnosed when you're in a really bad, your things have happened that are really bad, right? So people think this is it. They get hopelessly depressed. And what I'm here to tell you is that, again, 45 years of this experience, I've been through years of high challenging times where I'm barely functional, but I come out of it. I come out of it every time. And I'm back on my bicycle. I'm back hiking. I'm back doing the things I love. Maybe not to the extent that I want to, but I'm still there. I'm still there. And I come out of it every time. And me personally, someone who's written books, someone who teaches people, someone who's been an occupational therapist, I still go through my valleys as well, because my disease is still with me, and it will be for the rest of my life. But because I've been through this process, and because I'm working on behalf of myself and my life, I have a lot more skill than I used to on maneuvering these things with grace. And that's really my bottom line for myself, is to have grace through all this. Because I do have a challenging ride in this lifetime. And then the other thing I would say to people, and this really helped me, is to create a personal mission statement. I wrote it down, and I talk about this in my second book. And I look at it every once in a while, and it reminds me of who I am. Because when you have these painful diseases, you you go through phases where you feel like you're lost. You've lost yourself. Like, who am I anyway? And so if you have this personal mission statement, you can look back and say, you know what? I may be in a lot of pain right now, but I can still have compassion for people. That's one of the things on my personal honor code. I can still have compassion for people. I can still believe in myself. I can still believe in other people. I can still be a good friend. I can talk on the phone. And this is another thing. You can stop me if I'm rambling too much.
No, you're not. This is keep going.
I really have a strong feeling about this one, and that is that we like to create this divide. You've got the caregiver and the person who needs the help, right? Mm. And I've been asked during other interviews, who's your primary caregiver?
Oh,
and I'm like, what do you mean? I guess it's myself. Like, it's a hard question for me, because I've never thought about that in the context of my life. And even as a therapist training caregivers, I've always felt a little funny about that. And this is why. I think that we're all caregivers to each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you have, for example, I wrote about this in my second book. I worked in an inpatient locked Alzheimer's unit for a couple years. And the people there are the ultimate in people who you would think are, I'm the caregiver, and they're complete dependents. Someone who has Alzheimer's has no idea who they are. They don't know their name. They can't dress themselves. But you know what? They taught me a lot. The complete dependence that I was a therapist for taught me a lot about patience, about myself. So I have this strong belief that even when I, or any person who's listening who has chronic pain, when you're feeling like I have nothing to offer, and I think that's a reason why sometimes people go down that abyss and decide to end their life, I don't have anything to offer anymore, you're wrong. You're always wrong when you think that way. Always.
I'm still shaken from losing Robin Williams.
Yeah.
I feel like that was, I'm still processing it.
I am too. I am too.
He was such a brilliant light for this world. Mm-hmm. And if he had reached out and asked for help, hundreds of thousands of
I
people
know.
would come to
I know.
him, come to his aid,
Mm.
and he didn't give us a chance to help
I
him.
know. I know.
I wish I could reach out to every person who's on that threshold
Yeah.
of
I know.
suicide, and let them, feel what I feel, that they are a light in this world, that their life does matter,
Yeah.
that they can positively impact others no matter what. There are people in wheelchairs who have to breathe through a straw to move their chair around,
Hmm.
and they have a positive impact on people's lives, and they contribute, and so just because you feel like you've been handicapped by a disease or by a pain doesn't mean that, just because you have to change the capacity at which you live your life or the capacity at which you contribute, doesn't mean you're contributing any less, and I bet you could contribute more.
I think so too. And it's been a really humbling experience for me. I think living with chronic pain, you're humbled every day. Okay. But it's been humbling for me to actually admit that occupational therapy is not my job anymore. And I really fought against that one because I had to stop working when I was 33. No, wait, 35 the first time. And then I got back to work for a few more years. And then I, got to the point where my patients were more concerned about me than themselves. And I'm like, okay, this is bad. I mean,
I can
couldn't.
actually hear that in our to when I do my interviews, just for listeners to know,
Yeah.
when I do my interviews, I have a pre-interview form that I have my interviewees fill out, and then we talk a bit before we begin we hit record. And when I read your form, I could really hear that there was pain, that there was
Yeah.
an incompletion, that there was
Right.
inner emotional conflict.
Yeah.
You said, I am currently not working as an OT. I had to stop doing that when my own disease got worse. Now I write books for people with chronic pain and disease. And so I could just, even that one sentence, I could
That's
hear
amazing.
that you really are not complete with that. And
Yeah, that you're very you're very good at picking these things up.
well,
Yeah.
I happen to love occupational therapy. I think it's not completely understood by the
Yeah.
layperson,
Yeah.
that it's not like occupation, like, oh, here, how do I do my job better? Or like,
Hmm.
how do I pick up a spoon when I've had a stroke? But it is such a creative type of therapy, because
Yeah.
you're helping people no matter what, mindset and physical, help
Hmm.
them to get all these tools to achieve results in their life, that are more effective. And
Yeah.
so occupational therapy is fantastic for parents with children with autism, and
Hmm.
and just there's just so many applications. You are helping people on such a wider scale now, because as a
Yeah.
OT you can only work with maybe
One at a
one
time.
person at a time, which
Yeah.
is very fulfilling, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
But there's countless people, and I think maybe you just don't get to experience how much you've impacted them, because they're reading your books and they don't come back to you and say,
I know.
oh my
It's
gosh,
funny.
So I don't
Yeah.
know if there's a way that you can like open up a forum so that you could like get people to come back to you after
Yeah.
they've
Yeah.
read your book and let you know how much
Yeah.
it made a difference in their life, because that would fulfill maybe a bit of that feeling that you used to get from being an
Right.
OT.
Right.
But I definitely recommend that my listeners check out your website, Kat Elton, so Kateelton. And just so you know, all the links to everything Kat does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast. I've been so moved by everything you've taught. Before we wrap it up, though, I had a question, a few questions. Okay. So just to begin to tie up loose ends, you talked about how you learned so much from the Alzheimer's patients. I'd love for you to share, what are some things that really impacted you? What did you learn from them?
Well, I learned that the one thing I learned was that we all have our own reality. We all create our own reality, and it's very real. So some of the people that lived in the facility thought they were 12 years old still, and they wanted to go to school every day. And what we know now is that with people with Alzheimer's, the best thing to do is to basically enter their world, validate their experience. And we used to, when I was young, my grandma had Alzheimer's, and it was reality training, and it was horrific because every day she learned that her parents had died, and she grieved every day.
Oh.
So, because she thought she was young. So, the one thing I learned in that facility was, again, reality is an interesting thing. It's not necessarily set in stone, and that they were living rich lives that were completely made up, basically, but they were very real to them. So again, that helped me to understand that maybe I can question my reality later on in my life when I, like I said, did that whole belief system shift. So that was one thing. And then the caregiver thing was the other, just the fact that, well, again, that was the bigger picture, what they were teaching me. But I think that there's value in every part of your life. And I think that sometimes when people enter nursing homes or the end of their life, people, again, we think that there's nothing left there for value, but there's so much. There's so much. And even when you have Alzheimer's and you don't have the ability even to talk, you still have the ability to make people smile. So I would go into work, and there were certain, I loved all the guys and women that were there. So they'd always lift my spirits too. And they didn't even know it. They didn't know it. I really struggled working there because for the first year I was thinking, why would this exist? This is a horrific disease. It basically makes you a shell of a human being. Takes your ability to, do most of everything, and you forget your life. So you're a shell walking around. But then again, the second year I was there, I that's kind of what we've been talking about this whole time, digging deeper to find true meaning in your experiences. And what I was learning, after I got over that, my own judgments around the disease and my own fear around what that is, I realized there's value in all of it. So again, all these things were wonderful learning experiences for me.
I love it. There's a movie, it's called Life is Beautiful.
Yes, I love that movie.
And another movie, you guys got to go watch Bob, and then we got to watch Life is Beautiful. That's this weekend's, playlist. Yes. Excuse me.
Bless you.
And this movie, I was a teenager when I watched it with my mom. My mom was still alive, and my mom loved it. She was overcome with so many emotions, having her grandparents and parents gone through World War I and World War II, and what they had to go through and to escape to come to Canada. And she was like, "This is such a beautiful story. This is so happy." And I was like, "Happy? How is this happy? The kid is taken away from the mom." And so I was arguing for the victim, right?
Wow.
And my mom was like, "No, the father creates this reality so the child never suffers. He creates an alternative reality. So the child is not jaded by the experience." And I could be brought to tears just talking about it now. Like, now that I have a child of my own, I can see I would do anything to make sure that in that situation that he gets to have a different reality. Because you don't have to have you don't have to be suffering because what is that saying? Like, pain is mandatory, suffering's optional.
It's so true. Yeah. And I think that isn't one that we didn't get to, that I've heard the Dalai Lama said it and other people, but I think that is a goal. That's my goal for myself. And I think that's a goal that, I help people transition into is understanding what that really means. Because pain is an unpleasant experience. So how is that not suffering? Right. But again, that's a deeper conversation, but it is something that we all have to work into, is to try to minimize the suffering that comes with the pain. And that's what I'm always trying to do.
And teaching others how to do.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
love that you mentioned the Dalai Lama. After my mom died, I was in the most emotional pain I
Oh,
think anyone could ever experience.
yeah.
And my friend, who's a Buddhist, brought over one of the movies about, like the biography about the Dalai Lama. Actually, she brought over like all of them, and we just watched all of them.
Oh my gosh.
And there was this one scene where he has this dream right before he escapes Tibet. He has a predictory dream in which he's standing sort of almost in this field, and half a million people of his people, half a million Tibetans are dead in this field that just goes on and on forever.
Mm.
And I could not stop crying. It hit me like a ton of rocks. This man lost half a million people that he loved, or he lost, however many Tibetans have died and suffered as a result of China invading their country, and throughout all the years, and yet he does not have a chip on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
He practices and teaches peace, and I saw the light at the end of the tunnel in my grieving for my mom. I thought, if this man could come out of this extreme amount of pain, which is nothing compared to what I felt, and come out such a brilliant light for the world and helping so many people, then there's hope for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I absolutely recommend following what he teaches, regardless of what
Yeah.
religion you are. It's about learning to end suffering. Well,
I agree. Yeah.
thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. I highly recommend those who are in chronic pain to reach out to Kat and book some sessions with her. She's been helping people for many, many years. Get resources, get resourceful in their life. And
Mhm.
so, your life set up to all the things you had to learn it firsthand. And then of course with your job as occupational therapist was all set up to be able to help people. And where you're going, I'm so excited for where you're going in the future and how many lives that you can touch
Thank
worldwide,
you.
because there are people in pain, and I want them to be able to become as resourceful as you are.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's wonderful what you're doing, so I'm so excited. I'd love for you to leave us with some parting wisdom, for those who are in, not even for those who are in pain, but for all of us who are listening. What could we do now and for the next 7 days to improve our life, improve our health, improve our resourcefulness?
I think that if you want to just do a one thing for the next 7 days, um, I would suggest doing a self-assessment right now, or whenever you get the chance. Do a self-assessment and look at your life areas. Um, Write it down. Where your life balance is looking right now. Look at your career. Look at your finances. Look at your home life. Look at your support systems. Look at your nutrition. Look at your exercise. Look at your rest. Look at your sleep, and then think about where are your strong areas and where are your weak areas, and then pick one. Say it's your sleep that you are the most uncomfortable with right now, and that is where you're going to start. You're going to start there and do one small thing to help yourself to sleep better. And that, again, I think we can create momentum by doing these small little things. But we have to know what's most important. And sometimes it takes a little bit of contemplation to understand what that is. So that's what I would say, what people can start with.
Excellent. And you said there were some downloads on your website for them to do that?
Yeah. Well, from my first book, I do have worksheets that go along with each chapter, and yeah, the worksheets they can download those for sure, and they'll find some different fun activities that'll help them to explore their health and create some options.
Excellent.
The second book has discussion questions at the end, so questions for contemplation, and I'm actually going to be working on a workbook that'll go with the second book, so that people can have like a year plan, and each month take on a different aspect. So that'll be coming.
Excellent, Kat. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
being on the
you.
show. I'd love to have you on again in the future, especially when you come out with more books.
I would love that.
When you decide that there's another aspect of this you'd love to teach, please come back on the show.
Yeah, and I'm a listener, so I'll be listening until then. I love your show.
Oh, thank you.
I love your show. I really, really do.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, you get to listen to yourself in the next episode.
Great.
Terrific, Kat.
Thank you, Ashley.
It's been a true pleasure having you on the show, and I'm so thrilled that you're doing the work you're doing, and you're truly helping so many people.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, excellent. I look forward to having you back on the show. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com, and one of our fantastic true health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.